Okay, so let's take a little bit deeper dive into organic functionality of BalloonBuilder. So over here we have a column. So in standard non-organic mode, you will have a straight all balloons the same size. And the design and size menu looks like this. We can actually, for now, we can hide the images. And when we enable organic mode, you can see that quite a few more options appear. So the first one is edit path points. We can take a look at that later. Then organic setting, minimum size, maximum size. So this controls the balloon sizes. So for each layer, right now we have 5 balloons per layer. And for each layer, the sizes are in this range. So from 18 centimeters to 30 centimeters. So you can adjust these sizes, for example, go to 12 centimeters and 46 centimeters. So you can see that the size range is a little bit larger and you will have more gaps. So basically the body of the structure should not have a too high size difference in balloons. Like you know yourself, if you try to create a straight organic structure, you need to have a little bit closer sizing. So like from 20 to 40 centimeters roughly, for example. So you will have 12-inch and 18-inch rounds there. And like if you look at the 3D structure, you can see that there are some gaps visible over there. If you want to minimize the gaps, you have a few options. Okay, the first option, which is the easiest one to use, I would say, is to use the rotate and recreate pattern. So this basically, this rotates each layer by 1 degree. But since each layer is separate and the rotation is not exact, it will always update the structure and try to fit a new pattern, new size pattern of each balloon in that layer. So if you click, it always recreates the whole column. Every time we click, it always recalculates all the sizes. So now you can just choose which the design that looks nice. So if you look at the column, for example, from this distance, you can't see any gaps. So I would say this is like a nice starting point. So the sizes are now set for the basic base structure of the column. The next thing you can, and one thing you can also take a look at this now is the look at the dimensions of the column. So you can see that with these sizes, the rough size of the column is 1 meter wide and 2.7 meters high. So it is quite large column. So we can hide the dimensions. And what you can do next is you can add clusters. So the same idea like in normal, when you create organic columns or arches, you usually add some clusters to fill all the gaps and so on. So over here you can also add clusters, but these are placed so that you can't define where they go. So they just try to look a nice place and they go there. So you don't need to think, you just choose the size range for the clusters, let's say 10 centimeters to 20 centimeters, for example. And we enable, so add clusters, and you can see that the clusters are added and they fill most of the gaps that they were. So it's looking quite good. And the colors of these clusters right now, by default, they follow the pattern of the arch or the column. So the same color pattern is used in the clusters. We'll take a look at the colors later, but for now, they basically take the colors that are closest to the cluster. So, for example, over here, there are large balloons are red, and the cluster balloons are also red over there, and then yellow over here, blue over here, and so on. And you can set the number of clusters over here, like when you create the organic column or arch, for example, you usually don't use the clusters on each side of the structure. So you quite often only fill the gaps on the front side if the other side is against the wall. So you don't need to think about the back side. But in this case, the clusters are at the all over the structure. So you may need to use like more than you would by default. For example, in this case, I would probably use something like 10 to 20 clusters, not more than that. But when we are actually adding the clusters all over the structure, you may need to use a little bit more. But let's say, for example, 30 would probably be a good number. So next thing we have in the list is add exploding stars. So I want to disable the clusters for now, so it's a little bit more clear. So when we click to add exploding stars, so we get something that looks a little bit weird, and the default number of stars is now 10. So actually, I would probably prefer to change now to a little bit larger design, let's say 32 layers, and we take arch. So it's, yeah, let's go with this one. So the number of exploding stars, maybe, for example, 6, and the size, 50, maybe 50, and you can choose the number of star points in each star. So 5, 6, 7, maybe for this. You can try it to refresh the structure. And also the placement of the stars changes when you refresh. So if you change the number of star points to 5 and then click refresh, one of the star points disappears. Sorry. So like so. So if you change the number of star points, the star placement stays the same. But if you change the number of stars, for example, to 5, the placement changes. So they are placed randomly around the whole arch. And I think you don't like the placement of this star point. For example, it's the exploding star, because it's in the middle of the round balloons. They are mostly placed so that they are not overlapping with round balloons. That's how it should be. But sometimes if there is a bigger gap, the mathematical fitting just doesn't realize that the gap is too small and it just tries to fit the exploding star in the middle of somewhere. So what we can do, we can try to find a nice placement for the stars by just changing the settings. So, but often what we have is not optimal still. So we can choose this move star points. So if you activate the move star points, you will actually see plus signs over here in 2D, and also the actual exploding stars are visible in 2D, but they are mostly hidden inside of the round balloons. So this way you will actually see where they are placed. So I think this is almost good. I will just move it this. So just take your left mouse button and move this a little bit towards the center. Right now it's quite okay. And this one we can just take away and move it to here. Maybe this. Okay. And we can actually also rotate the pattern and try to find a little different. Let's see, I have actually they are a little bit too much on the back side right now, so I want to move them a little bit to the front side. So I will rotate a few times to see. Okay, no, this is fine. So let's go with this one. So just have the move option active, and let's move this one a little bit like so, and this is okay, and this is actually the stars are now quite nicely placed. This one is on the back side, so it's not basically visible at all, so we can actually hide it completely by moving it so that it actually doesn't show at all. So the placement of the stars is, let's say, we are happy with that. And if we now remove this, we also remove the exploding stars, so they will not be visible anymore. So we don't want to disable them now. So the next thing we have over here is enable garland chains. So we can enable that. And also for this one, we have the size setting. So let's use, for example, 12. And we need to activate the draw garland. So activate that one. And now what we need to do in 2D, I will hide the menu so we have a little bit more room over here. And actually I will only show the 2D. So now when we click in 2D over here, for example, that will be the starting point of the garland. So it says start. And we want the garland to go from there to over here. And click again over here. So you get the garland over there. And maybe we want to add another one, say from here. So we need to activate again. So from here to somewhere around here. Another garland, and let's say one more from here to here. Okay, so we have 3 garlands. And now if you go to view over here, so we can see where the garlands are. They are not quite perfect yet. So what we can actually do, so we can actually adjust the length of the garland. So what this does, it actually curves the garland. The start and end points are not moving, but the garland is curved a little bit more, so it fits a little bit more nicely into the between the balloons over there. So this will never give you perfect setup, but it gives you I would say that the visually it gives you quite realistic placement for the garlands, and the garland outlook also is quite okay. This still requires some tuning, but it's usable. And if we now go to the last option over here, this one actually should be, if we disable the enable garland chains, we still should have the garlands visible in the image. So let's disable this one, so the garlands are not disappearing. It just hides the menu for those. So Now, if you click clear all garlands, it will ask you if you are sure you want to remove all the garlands, and also if you want to move the garlands. So let's say, for example, this one, I want to turn this or move the end point a little bit further to the right. So you can just grab that and move that to another position. And this one also, if you want to move the start point, you can just drag that. And this one, just take and move, and it goes there. And actually, this one is overlapping with the star over there, so I will actually move it so it's not going to overlap with the star. Okay, now it's a little bit better. And then the last option is enable large balloons. So over here you can actually add individual large balloons. So you can define the size, actually large. Well, you can also place small balloons like 10 centimeter balloons if you want to add them somewhere in the structure. But let's say if we want to add, so the largest balloons are 40 centimeters now. So we want to add, like, for example, 55 centimeter large balloon somewhere. I would say this place is probably a good one. The exploding stars are over there, so maybe one over there, one somewhere over here. So let's put so add large balloon and click over here. So well, it's not placed perfectly, but we can move that later. And then we add one more over there, so somewhere here, and maybe change the size a little bit larger and add one over here, so like so, and maybe one somewhere over here, so like so. Okay, what we can do now is we can cancel the placement and activate the move big balloons or large balloons, and you can just grab one and move that closer to the actual structure body. Okay, so I think this is quite good now. And the other one, I want to drag that over there, or actually I may want to put it on the other side. So yeah, that's probably a bit better. So I think we want to add at least one or two more balloons over there, so we can actually decrease the size to something like 40 and add one over there and another one over there. Cancel that, and then we can move these. So it's a little bit more full over there. And then this one, maybe we want to move it a little bit. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's quite okay now. So also over here we can just disable this, so all the balloons stay in there, but just the menu is more clean now. So the next thing I want to do, well, probably you would like to do that first, to choose the colors for the balloons, but I will do it now. So the colors are now in C1 to C4 because we have 4 colors chosen. I think I will actually only want to use, for example, 3 colors, and I want to use, I could use random colors, so it just randomizes everything. So let's say I want to use, for example, white sand and mocha and for example, pastel dusk blue. And then for the garlands, right now all these garlands are the same color. We can actually choose which color we want to use. So you just need to click garland and choose this the same. So it's now the pastel dusk blue. And then for this one, I want to use the mocha. And for this one, white sand. Sorry, I just so that's from one. So this now should be white sand. Okay. Okay, there is yes. Okay. So now we have the Excel arch colors and then garland colors, and also the large balloons are now using the CG1. So we could also define one more balloon if we, for example, want to use for some reason. Okay, but for the star points, for example, if you want to use silver for the star points, or maybe gold in this case. So now what we can do is we can define the colors of the star points or the exploding stars. So you can define how many different colors we want to use, but I want to use just one, and I want to use the CG4, which is the gold. So choose the gold for the stars, and then we can modify the garland colors. So can, for example, color 1 CG1, the second one CG2, and the third one to CG3. So we have all the three colors over there. And then the last one is the large balloons. So we can also choose the color for each of these. So let's say just click same way, CG 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now all the colors are set. And if you want to do any fine tuning, you can do that. And let's just show now the 3D only. So you have the organic arch. One thing, if you want to now modify the shape of the arch, the garland chains need to be placed again, and also the large balloons, because they are not following the shape of the arch, so they are manually set. So if you change the shape of the arch, for example, to half circle arch from here, so if you change this to something else than the 230-degree arch that is now chosen, it will break the structure. So you don't want to do that. So now you can actually go to lighting menu, optimize the lighting if you want, but you can also choose the background image. So for example, stage. Just zoom out. I think I want to, for the movement, I will actually enable the preview mode for a while. It's faster to move the 3D art and place it, for example, there. And now I want to actually also remove the wall shadow. And when I now enable the HQ mode, you will see only the shadow on the floor. So this could be placed, for example, over there. And you can now zoom in to increase the size. And yeah, that's about it. And again, you can re-choose the colors, whatever you want. If you want to, for example, replace this one with gold, reflex gold, and refresh. Actually, we need to go to 2D view, because 2D view is transferring the colors to 3D, so we need to show the 2D when we actually change the colors. So those are not updated directly in the 3D mode. So that one, and if you also want to change the color of the garland, you can also do that. Let's have it like that. So now you can just place the arts wherever you want, and then you can export the whole design. For the organic arts, you get the list of the balloons. So you have all the total number of balloons and the sizes also. And for this one, I need to explain a little bit. So for R24, so 24-inch balloons, the size, the number of balloons is calculated based on the sizes. So if you add more large balloons, you will also need to have, so it automatically calculates if the size is actually, right now it calculates the R18, so 18-inch balloons are from 24 to 36 centimeters. And then if the balloon is larger than 36, it assumes that it's 24 inch instead. So for the organic, this is just it gives you an idea of how many balloons you will be using, but it gives quite good idea of how many balloons are, what are the sizes needed for this. So depending on the way you build the arts, it gives you a good idea. Also 36-inch balloons, if the sizes are above 55 centimeters, it assumes that it's 36 inch. And over here, the layers are not super clear because there are these garland balloons and everything visible, because it takes basically a slice from each layer. And if there are these small garland balloons somewhere in the layer, it also calculates those into the same layer. So this grid is not really useful for the organic designs, but it's there if you want to use it for something. But it's more the 3D image and the table that is actually useful. So if you want to export something for the organics, this is what I would export. This is nice. You can just copy the image and send that to client directly via email or anything. Or you can just save the whole thing as a PDF and send that to your team, or keep it in your own records. Make sure you have all the required balloons in your stock. And that's it. Thank you for your attention. That was a quick view into organic designs of using BalloonBuilder.com.